All right, you're welcome back to Rubbin Minds. I have here with me one of my favorite guests. Every time he's here, Demola Rewaju. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure is mine.
Cracking me up already before we even went on air. But we're going to be talking something very interesting. The presidency has released, they call it 6 thematic strategies and 33 priority actions as regards the 2016 budget. So basically things we should hold them to for the year. There's a lot of things that we talked about. We're going to go into specifics as we talk. But it covers a lot of sectors.
Yes.
Right. Are you impressed on the face of it? Let's start with that.
Well, I think, first of all, I want to commend this government for being courageous enough to admit that the manifesto they presented for the elections were unrealistic and phantasmagorical, you know, as I said when we had that debate last year. This obviously signifies that, you know, rather than being a promise of change, this is actually a change of promise, because they've scaled down on a lot of things that they said they were going to achieve. And then most importantly for me, I think I would want the Vice President Oshibajo to clarify whether the President actually signed off on this, because I know before the election, the Vice President promised that there were going to be 740,000 jobs to be created immediately they come into government. And after a while, you know, the President's media team said that, you know, that wasn't part of the campaign promise of the President. So, and when the meeting was held, an emergency federal executive cabinet meeting was called to discuss these 6 thematic strategies and priority actions. The President was supposed to preside. He did not preside. You know, he was being expected at that meeting. He wasn't there. So I think we should know if President Buhari is actually giving his full backing to this.
Before we go into the specifics now, you mentioned something there about, you know, scaling down of promises. Where does that leave voters? Because it seems like that's sort of a thing with politics, not even just in Nigeria, around the world. What do we do with that now going forward, where something is promised and then we change mouths, as it were, as we go on?
I can't really answer that for the voters. I think when the right time comes, the voters would make that decision on what to do as per those change of promises are not necessarily a promise of change. But, you know, we must make sure that the voters know that this is indeed a change of promise and not a promise of change.
All right, let's look at a lot of this. They cover a lot of, I said, 6 broad segments, like I would say. Yes. Lasting changes in policy, national security and governance. There's talk about diversifying the economy, prioritizing infrastructure, oil and gas reforms, ease of doing business, and social investment. Now, those are the 6 main sectors. Let's start with the oil and gas, because I think a lot of Nigerians will be very interested in that. I just want to talk about, they're talking about adopting a national oil and gas master plan, setting a deadline for being self-sufficient, and, you know, working with the National Assembly and the PIB. The PIB keeps coming up.
Yes, the PIB keeps coming up basically because, you know, it's a bill that should have been passed long before now, but because industry and government have not been able to agree. But one thing is important on this issue of PIB presently. This current PIB that we hope will be passed actually excludes the host communities from the 10% development funds. And that's a very key feature of this particular PIB.
We've heard reports that might not be true.
Okay, well, if it's not true, we'll be hoping that, you know, the government will come out and show us the PIB that they intend to pass, so that there'll be a robust debate around it, so that it wouldn't just be done, you know, behind the scenes. But importantly for me, I think, you know, this document actually says that it's going to be a short-term priority of the federal government over the next 12 months. And we are in April 2016. Is this document going to be the government plan for the next 12 months? Is this government saying that this budget is going to be in place until April 2017? Are we saying that by April 2017, the 2017 budget would not yet be passed? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So I don't think it's a document for 12 months. I think it's more or less like a document. It should be a document for 10 months or 11 months if we are hoping that the budget will be passed, the 2017 budget will be passed by January, February 2017, except, you know, they bring in issues, you know, to delay the budget and so on. So I think this document will not last those 12 months. I think in 9 months' time, they'll shut down this thing again, and then we are on to another set of plans. But overall, looking at it, I think it's really more or less campaign all over again. I saw a point earlier when I'll try and locate it before the end of the program. But, you know, yes, this is said under the oil and gas reforms. You know, it says to set a deadline to be self-sufficient in refined petroleum products and become. It's not specific. I mean, that's no strategy. That's a campaign promise all over again. You are saying that you intend to set a deadline. You are not setting a deadline. You are saying that you intend to set a deadline. You are in government. So we expect, that these things should actually be priority actions and actions that are being carried out. All in all, I think, the ministers, the ministries involved should be able to tell us at the end of the day, during the week, during next week, and tell us, look, this is how we intend to do to achieve these things. For instance, it talks about the plan to make sure that the fight against corruption is done by increasing transparency, accountability, and compliance with law and order. The Attorney General should tell us, how do you intend to comply more with law and order? Are we expecting that over the next 12 months, we are going to see a case where judges give orders for people's bills, and those bills would actually be complied with by the federal government? Is that what they are telling us? Because I expect that, the Mr. Vice President is a professor of law, and he should be able to ensure that everything this government does is in compliance with law and order.
Like you said, a lot of the things that jump at me actually are the fact that there's no specifics with a lot of the hows. No. But one sector or segment, I must say, that looks like it has a lot of hows, or at least specific timelines and deadlines, is the infrastructure segment. Where it talks about completion of airports, undertaking rehabilitation of 31 major roads, even though we don't know what the roads are. But it says over a distance of 2,000 kilometers, the completing Kaduna, Abuja, and the Ajaokuta Warri Rail line scheduled for 2016. There are some specifics in that segment, actually.
The specifics here, the Calabar-Lagos Rail project, that was struck out from the 2016 budget sent to President Buhari.
Which we hear he has now probably returned.
He has now probably returned it to them, but it's not in that budget, which means that for the next 1 to 2 weeks, the budget, which is supposed to be the basis of this thematic, it's going to be tied down. So that means they don't even have the 9 months that I said they might have. They might have about eight months. And then, the airports, conspicuously missing here, I think, is the Enugu airport. I'm wondering why the Akanu Ibiam International Airport is not there. That airport had its first international flight in 2013. So one would expect that this should be there. I'm hoping that it's an oversight, because, a lot of ethnic tensions and so on and so forth, which I don't want to go into. But I think, apart from the Abuja, Kano, Lagos, and Port Harcourt airports, the Enugu airport should also be looked into for rehabilitation. I mean, that airport is actually bad. Water floods the tarmac. You have a lot of problems there. So I think this government should really look into that.